Just after 3 o'clock, welcome back to Central Valley Talk. We're live right now on YouTube TV, Facebook, Instagram, and of course our home, CentralValleyTalk.com. Austin Reed hanging out with you. It is a Wednesday, the 28th of April, another beautiful day here in Fresno. Highs today right around 86. Tomorrow and the next day, though, highs will be back in the 90s. Then we should cruise down to the 80s by the end of the weekend. Hey, my next guest joining us live via Zoom right now is Karen Roseberry. Karen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Austin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Good to meet you as well.
Thank you for joining us today. So, recall, it's a recall effort, a campaign that you're working on down in Los Angeles County?
Correct. It's for the district attorney of Los Angeles. His name is George Gascon, and the campaign effort is Recall Gascon Now. And the reason behind it is because there is a danger to Angelenos and a tremendous assault on justice that is taking place under this district attorney.
You know,
Please go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, a lot of people here in Fresno don't really know the story, and you were going to continue. So, yeah, I want to hear it.
Definitely. So there's actually a few in Fresno who do. In fact, your own district attorney, Lisa Snickcamp, actually has spoken out in regards to the just perilous policies and dangerous directives that are being issued by George Gascon. These directives include things such as no longer prosecuting a number of misdemeanor crimes, trespassing, resisting arrest, prostitution. These crimes are no longer being prosecuted by the district attorney's office. There is no longer the seeking of bail for numerous criminals when they are being released, despite the fact that Californians and Angelenos both voted to reinstate cash bail with Prop 25. In fact, the reinstatement of bail was at a higher margin than the district attorney was elected. So there's a debate that's somewhat ensuing about the fact that he's, an elected individual, and yet this elected individual is also traipsing over the rights of this very same voters in the very same election that actually elected him. So we have a lot of concerns in Los Angeles County about this district attorney, and those are just a few of the reasons why we see that he needs to be recalled.
And I'm looking here at your flyer. Disregards rule of law, dangerous directives on sentencing, and dismissive in victims. Those are kind of the big three you're going with, right?
Exactly correct. In fact, the sentencing issues have to do with the fact that there are no longer special enhancements being put onto crimes that oftentimes will increase sentences to make Angelenos much more, safe. There's already passed the legislation, both by the legislature and by voters, that implement standards and that implement statutes for what should be proper sentences for crimes that are not being sought after by the district attorney, nor is he allowing his deputy district attorneys to pursue these sentences either. He's actually ended the deputy district attorneys being at parole hearings so that there is no longer the voice from the district attorney's office at these hearings, as well. And in fact, he's actually encouraged motions for the release of any criminal who's served 15 years in jail, regardless of the crime, regardless of how heinous, regardless of the circumstances. He encourages the motions for their release.
What are the big reasons why he is doing this, allegedly?
So that's an excellent question. There is a need for criminal justice reform, without a doubt. But what is being enacted under this district attorney are not the reforms that are actually necessary for improving our justice system. We have a system that needs to ensure that rule of law is equitably enforced. And when an individual is acting almost like a monarch in determining, which laws will be enforced and, what will be prosecuted, that is not equitable enforcement under the law. That is not a system of justice where rule of law is prevailing. And it is not going to be conducive for there to be the belief of justice being enacted throughout the county. And it will actually serve as a detriment to reforms that are needed and that are desired, and that even men like Sheriff Villanueva, who's actually the LA County Sheriff and ran on a reform-based platform as well. He understands that reform is needed in law enforcement and even in our judicial system, but that doesn't mean that law is disregarded in the seeking of those reforms.
You know, we are seeing across the country right now a lot of recall efforts for politicians. Of course, here in California, the entire state, we've got the Recall Gavin Newsom effort, which last check got enough signatures. It's going on the ballot, right?
That is my understanding as well.
Okay.
There is a brief window right now that does allow for those who have signed the petition, if they want to pull their name off. It's highly unlikely that will actually change the fact that there will be an election. They would have to have just an overwhelming number of individuals make that request. And it seems almost a certainty that the recall election will be going forward probably towards the end of the year. I think October would be the absolute earliest we could possibly see it. More likely than not, we'll see it probably pushed into the November timeframe.
And back to what I was saying earlier, you know, we're seeing these recall political leaders, these efforts all across the country. A lot of it has to do with COVID-19 and their handling of the pandemic. This one is just totally different.
It is. You're exactly correct. This is not a partisan issue. This is not a COVID-19 issue. This is simply the fact that an elected official is not actually doing the job that he was hired to do, elected to do, and is actually sworn to do in the upholding of the law. We have laws that are being completely and totally disregarded. And from any elected official, that's concerning, but from the district attorney, that is outright alarming and dangerous. And in fact, we're seeing spikes in crime in LA County. There was actually a period of time where the murder rates were actually 200% from what they were at the same time last year. This is not making Los Angeles a safer place. In fact, it's actually endangering the 10 million residents of our county. And the risk is, and part of the reason why I wanted to come on Central Valley, is that this can ripple throughout the rest of the state. We have Kern County DA, the Fresno DA, speaking out in support of the recall effort. We have even down in Orange County, there's a risk of not only the ripple that comes from the crime that can spread from LA County, but there is a movement to actually see these policies replicated in other counties and throughout the state. And we as Californians need to hold our politicians accountable so that they don't believe themselves to be above the law that they've been elected to enforce.
We are going to learn more about this. I think you're coming back on next week.
I believe so. I believe so. That sounds great.
You're going to be promoting an event. Is that right?
I don't know that we specifically have an event. We have done a couple of trainings already.
Okay.
There is, some other activity that goes along with that, but not a specific event just yet. But like I say, as there is news and as there are events, certainly we'll be happy to share that information as they become available.
Very good. All right, Karen, where can people learn more about this recall effort?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Best place to go is www.recallgasconnow.com. So again, that's recallgasconnow.com. The website will give you plenty of information about the effort, what it entails, opportunities to volunteer, opportunities to support, and some fun resources that can also be shared on social media by anyone, certainly throughout the state.
All right, very good. I think, Mike Briggs will be interviewing you next week, so we'll be looking forward to that. Karen, thanks for joining us, though, this week via Zoom. Appreciate it.
Austin, thank you so very much. I really appreciate it as well. Thank you so much for your time and for the interview. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right.
Thank you, Central Valley folks.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Sounds great.
I'm Austin Reed. You're watching Central Valley Talk. We're back with another live local guest in studio coming up in just a bit. Hang tight.